What's interesting, Jamie, is I started on the football field, and I remember when I first came from football and started coaching my daughters, I had the reputation of a nut. I was used to coaching offensive linemen and screaming and yelling whenever I didn't get what I wanted, and I learned that wasn't going to work. I had the blessing of having a gentleman named Danny Murakami and Daryl Pratt helped me. They kept me away from my daughter for the first couple years until I learned how to do this, but I put a lot of credit in that and how to coach female players to Gary Henning. Gary, the one thing Gary taught me was he kept reminding me, just keep your mouth shut at times. Sometimes just let things play out. And while coaching with Gary for 7 or 8 years, I think that's what I learned the most. I learned that when you're coaching young girls that we don't always have an answer. And don't say something if you don't have an answer, because they are far more sharp than you are when it comes to dealing with a crisis at that moment. And so I've learned sometimes just to flow with it. But I've also learned that if you're not truthful, and if you try to say things that are not you, they will call you on it. They know when you're not being truthful, and that's the thing. Girls are far more intellectual when it comes to, like, they'll read you and they'll know. With a guy, and I'm a guy, so I can make fun of guys. They'll do anything. I could throw a rock out there and they'll go after it and they'll play, and I'll convince them that this is what we got to do today. And okay. Girls, they're not going to do that. So being able to refine your delivery and not overpower the situation. Sometimes you got to let them manage that stuff, I think, is very important. But you learn that. It takes time. It takes time to learn that. It was hard. I can tell you that my oldest daughter would probably argue some of my answers right now, but I tried not to carry it from the field. I'm certain I did. I don't remember it being bad, but I'm certain I did, because I just, I was, in my mid-30s, and I was intense, and I was getting after it all the time, so I'm sure there are times where it carried over. But they're pretty strong women right now, so we did something right. Daryl Pratt. Daryl, it's an interesting story. Daryl coached with my dad back in the early 70s. They ran Whittier Girls Softball. I've been around this stuff my whole life. And Daryl's granddaughter was my shortstop on Tough Enough. And Daryl wouldn't allow me, and then Daryl's wife, Diane, I got chewed out many times by my shortstop's grandmother in private, not on the field, but for doing things that probably weren't recommended at the time. But I always learned that I had a coach with me in 1996 that kept reminding me. He says, if your heart's in the right place, that will play out. The girls will know that. They may know you're like a raving lunatic, but they know that you're on their side. And so I think that you have to develop that strength, and I think that's what helped me a lot. But Daryl and Danny Murakami did a lot to help me back off at times. So probably saved me a few times. My first travel team was in the fall of '95. We started, and then we didn't go into the summer, and then we started Tough Enough in '96. The fall of '95, and then into '96 was when Tough Enough started.
What keeps you going? What makes you enjoy
You know what,
getting
Jamie?
out there?
So we were in Arizona, and we got all this craziness with the scheduling, with the pandemic and everything. And we were in Arizona, and we drove to Tucson. We got to play the Sun Cats out there, and we went to scrimmage and everything. I left here, drove there all night, got there at 3 o'clock in the morning, woke up at 7 to go to practice. And Katie comes in, my daughter, and she says, are you burnt out? And I said, No, I'm not. I'm good. Because I love this stuff, and it's. I guess it's like a hunter hunting. You just, it's the motivation to get it done, and then you watch the progress of different people. And we walked in here today, and to Alyssa Brito and Hannah Delgado, we were here at 10 o'clock last night hitting. It's 9, and they're in there hitting again, and so you go. It's kind of like. Yeah, got it. And that's why you wake up and that's why you go. It's worth it. It's hard. When you get older, man, it gets harder. I'll tell you that much. My approach has changed quite a bit. And what's funny, so I'll go coach with the 10s or 12s, and I go down there and I'm like, I can use this line, guys, that's not that big of a deal. And you got the young coaches, no, she can't do that. And I go, no, don't worry about that. She'll be fine. Is like now, here I look back where I was the crazy man, and now I'm trying to tell these people, don't worry about that. Let's focus on the fundamental stuff. Let's just worry about that, you know? So there's a different approach with the 10s and 12s, and even the 14s. They try harder to please. So you got to be careful and understand their approach and what they're trying to do. But the fundamentals, here again, we teach them the same thing the older kids do. So it's that part hasn't changed. Well, it's to negate human nature. Human nature is to, when you succeed, you take a breath. When you succeed, you kind of feel like you've done something. And I'm the idiot that keeps yelling at my kids that you haven't done anything. You haven't done anything. I can tell you the times that we have won within 4 hours, I'm like, whoop, locked right back in. It doesn't matter. Like, okay, we're done there. I'll never forget the line Bill Belichick used after they won the Super Bowl. He was upset that, we won the Super Bowl, but I've lost 4 weeks of prep time for next year. It's like, okay, but that's what happens. Human nature is such that you want to take a break. You achieve something, you want to kind of, but you can't because everybody wants you. Everybody wants to do more. And it's tougher to win now with the expanse of our sport and the greatness of our sport and all the coaches getting better and paying more attention. It has gotten a lot tougher to be successful. Probably stupidity at the very beginning. I was telling Scott the story about bringing my daughter in and to work with Joan Bozel, and Joan was running SMI, and Carson Palmer was laying on the table after he just blew his knee out in the playoff game several years back, and I walked in, and then I saw Johnny Damon in there hitting the cage, and I thought, and I was already coaching my teams, and I thought, man, this is like, we could expand on this. So I just started putting the pieces together, and we ended up opening a facility on the other side of the stadium here, and it was daunting. It was most people don't understand that in a place like Southern California, we're right here in the Platinum Triangle in Orange County. This 30,000 square feet is not cheap, and it in the old style of people will pay $10 for a lesson and they'll come in. As you know, that doesn't cover 30,000 square feet of rent. It's my labor. And I've learned that it's very difficult to do this at a level to maintain. That's why most places don't survive. I've basically relinquished what I do to make sure this place stays open. And because oftentimes you'll call me, or I'm on Zoom calls, or we're on some of these webinars, and I'm doing lessons, and like the people that know me know what I'm doing, but I'm doing a webinar and I'm doing lessons at the same time. I have no choice. It is what it is. Most people aren't willing to do that, and it takes time. And then the more you do it and the more success you have, I often tell everybody, and I couldn't have done this, and I'll go back to Francesca Inea, Sierra Romero, Cheyenne Coyle, Janie Takeda. Some of the players, Monica and Dre Harrison, were probably two of the people that I learned the most from in my coaching career from them, because they had the guts and we had the relationship where they would tell me what was wrong and what was right. And so we developed a real tight bond. Well, with that, allowed me to grow as a coach. And then as that started building up, along came Amanda Lorenz, Sydney Romero, Alyssa Palomino, Taylor McQuillan, Morgan Flores, all these people, Folly Avu, that like, holy cow, they're on one. I always tell people they're on one team. Yeah, they're on one team. And we won 3 national championships in 5 years with them. And not just the ability to win, but their approach and their maturity and their understanding of who they were. And like, it was like driving the car itself. So it allowed me to do a lot of other things. And I couldn't have done it without them. What would I tell myself or my wife?
Both.
You're going to have to have much more width in your vision. You have to look at this. You can't be so focused on one thing. You got to look at the bigger picture for all the things that are involved in running a business. I had no business acumen. I did not know how to do this. I just had the heart to do it right and to be honest. And the honesty played out. To pay the bills and to get things done, you got to kind of stay true and honest to your word. But you need to be a little bit broader than what I was at the beginning. And I will tell you, I learned a lot from Tony. As Tony developed the Firecracker brand, people don't understand. The coaches at our level, we communicate a lot. I know Marty Tyson real well. I know Tony real well. And I'm beginning to get to know Dave Mercado real well. And what makes this unique, as tough as we are with each other at times, off the field, we communicate because we know that we all have to have each other's back in order to make this the brand of softball in Southern California elite. And so I think that learning from each other has helped me grow. In the last 3 years is when it's really gotten broader, and I think it's because of the work with other coaches. The first building we had was 23,000 square feet. It was a dirty warehouse, and it just didn't work. And we ended up, it was a blessing here in the crash of the real estate market. We moved here on this side of the stadium. We had this facility. I originally only had half of the building you see here now. This was an antique store on this side, and because of the growth of what we did, we were able to, move those people out. And we took over the other half of the building, and now it's 33,000 square feet. It's an incredible operation, and it's like whether you're a bat buster or a firecracker or a Corona Angel or a Texas Bomber, you walk in here, it's kind of like this is a pretty cool place to hang out. It is impressive for our sport. It's wonderful for our players. I've had the honor of having the Pride players in here do things, and you just this is a special place, and I'm glad that I get to be a part of it. Well, what's crazy is I can tell you when we wanted to open the other place, and this was after I explained who I saw and my daughter coming in. We wanted to open this place, and everybody says, well, why don't you just go find a bunch of investors? Just find a bunch of investors, and they'll all pitch in. And so I started, I'm an idiot, and I go out and I start talking to all these people, and I find out that everybody wants a piece, everybody wants their piece. And I'm thinking, oh man, this isn't gonna work. And we struggled for months. We struggled trying to put this together, and until I went to a UCLA Stanford softball game. Michelle Smith was a player of ours. She was a bat buster, graduated from Stanford. She was playing at Stanford at the time, and had a great relationship. Her parents were actively involved in the running of our team. They did the hotel. They were always with our team and everything. Well, I sit down at the UCLA Stanford game, and Michelle's father, Russ, was there, and I'm telling him the headaches I'm going through. Well, I didn't know what Russ did. I had no idea. Russ says, Mike, you need to come down and see me. He's the vice president of Pacific Enterprise Bank. So I go, So I went down and I visited with him and we met. Well, little did I know, people in the bank worked for the local rec leagues. They all know, it's like all of a sudden connections, and they helped us get the loans to open this place. We destroyed it all with the ruined economy and some of the things that happened, but it allowed us that we got our feet on the ground. Then we were able to move on, and that's how all this stuff played out. It just grew from there. So, like I tell my team, whether you're a banker or a bricklayer, the hardest person will win. The hardest working person will win. And you can't allow, stuff happens, you just got to stay on it. You just got to keep going, because if you give up, then anybody can give up. Anybody can give up. And we teach our players that all the time. So. There's a couple things, Lucas, that I remember that I'll never forget. And one, winning the first championship in 1997 in Midland, Texas. God, it was hotter. Oh, Jesus, it was hot. But we won 14-0, and that Tough Enough team was 117-1. They were scary good. That was an impressive time for me. But I'll also tell you, when we won the national championship in 2014, we had beaten the Corona Angels, and I mean, everybody knows who the pitchers were in that game. I mean, Marty's team was great. They were just really good, but we were pretty good too, and we were able to win. And I'll never forget, that was at the time we had taken over the Bat Busters from Gary, and Gary was in the dugout calling pitches for Taylor. And I'll never forget looking at him at that point, because it was always his desire. He didn't want the Bat Busters to end without any significance. He didn't want the team to go bad and suck and just end. And I remember looking at him, I said, I shook his hand after the game. I said, that ain't going to happen. And we have upheld our end of the bargain. We've represented who we are. And the class, the whole aura, or who we are as the Bat Busters, hasn't changed. People still feel the same, whether it was 15 years ago with Gary or now with us. We still have a certain swagger, a certain character about us that has never changed, and that's important to me. And so I think that has meant a lot. And then I'll also tell you, winning the MPF, not just winning the MPF, my experience with Don DiDonatis and the whole, like, I would have never expected that I would be coaching and bullshitting with Lauren Chamberlain. And I knew Sierra real well from, she played for us, but Kelly Kretschmann, and learning that these people are just softball players. They want to strategize, and they want to know information, and they want to know, like, why'd you do this? And I'll never forget the first day of practice. We go out there, and Lauren had back surgery or something, and we start our first day of practice, and they're stretching. They did we had a trainer that did some plyometric stuff and some warm-up stuff. And I remember, I'll never forget. Okay, down the right field foul pole, and I can't use the exact language Lauren used, but it was kind of like, and she looked at Sierra like, what's he talking about? And Sierra goes, we're just going to run foul poles right now. And so I got the Pride players running foul poles. They hadn't done this kind of stuff, and they're running. And the first time they did it, it was kind of like, this is BS, man. Second time, it was never a problem, because they realized that I'm going to work as hard as they are, so let's go. Let's practice. And I just learned so much value from them. Chelsea Goodacre, our catcher, incredible, just an incredible personality, an incredible intellect of our game. You get to experience these people. Kirstie Merritt, one of my favorite players of all time. You get to deal with these people, and man, was it fun. They played, and boy, did they dominate. When they had to, they could play. They got it done. And it was an experience of a lifetime for me, and that was those. There's different things. I mean, I can think of 100 things, but those are unique things that I'll never forget, ever.